Hey everyone, it's Rachel. It is time for my Disney trip flip through. Woo! Okay, I'm probably going to do this in two parts just because otherwise it will take 19 years for YouTube to upload it. And we're going to be joined by Xanthi because I cleared off a spot so I could open this up. So obviously she's like, well, I can lay here. I'll get rid of her in a minute, don't worry. Before I get started, I just kind of want to go through, stop eating my alphabets. I just want to kind of go through how I started this process, and then before I go to the flip through, I am going to just show you a couple of screenshots and walk you through kind of like the prep I did to make this album. So everything I used, I kept in this iris container. I had the collection pack for Say Cheese, the collection pack for Say Cheese 2. I did pick up one extra sticker sheet because I ran out of stickers. I bought a lot of the embellishments, including the wood veneer. I did have one thing by Queen & Company, and that was the flare. I kept all of my photos in this little 4x6 photo container, and I did a lot of collaging two different ways. One where I collaged it to cut apart to use them as smaller photos, and then I made some actual collages, and I'll show you that when I am going through. I've got the 12 by 12 paper. I had purchased some, these are extra photos I had, like a couple of them. I printed more than once because I at some point planned to like maybe frame them or something. And then a couple I printed like at a 2x3 and a 3x4 because I wasn't quite sure what I would actually use it for. I do have a little bit left over. Oh, look, some more photos. These were just leftovers. These are mostly doubles. So, oh sugar, I did have one tag left over. I did buy these stitch tags. Maybe I'll find some place to put it. We'll see. I did have some Project Lifestyle cards, and this is just like really remnanty remnants, so I will work back into my stash. Like I have got some plain cardboard and stuff like that, but honestly, like I've got sticker sheets, but they have like 2 stickers, 3 stickers left over, or like the only big stickers I have left here on this page is this one right here, is the clapper thingy for the TV movie thing, and then the word believe. I mean, that's it. I'm not going to keep this 12 by 12 sheet for that because I probably won't ever use it. I will keep this because there's alphas, and I have like 4 E's left because for some reason I didn't use the letter E in my titles a lot. And what I might do is just cut it down to 6 by 12 and then keep these. I have my little alphas separate from my big alphas, so I might keep these separate and then just get rid of these because, you know, it's just a big empty spot. So at one point this was chock full, but now it's just kind of the remnants of things. I'll show you, like there's really very little left in there. But that's how I held it. I actually only had like 6 or 7 die cuts left, and one of which was the word magic. I'm never going to use it. It looks so Mickey Mouse, and I'll be totally honest, I am done. I probably will not use the Say Cheese line ever again. Even if we do go back to Disney, it's just never ever ever going to happen that I'm going to use it again. I am burned out. It took me forever to finish this just because I was done with that line for a while. So I want to explain a couple things before. So I'm going to go to a voiceover with some photos, some screenshots I took of some files I made in Google Drive. But before I go into, when I come back, I'm going to go right into my you know what? I'm going to go right to that, and then when I come back, I'll explain what I'm going to explain. I'm going to go on to my voiceover. Sometimes the volume is quite a difference. It becomes much louder. I do try to compensate for that, but if not, just be aware and, you know, be ready to change your volume just in case. Sorry, Xanthi, you're going to have to go in just a second. All right, I'm going to go on to the voiceover.
Okay, so I've got two screenshots to show you. The first one being this spreadsheet of how I set up my album. So you'll see here I had a listing of all the different stories I wanted to tell, whether and then whether it was a traditional or just going to be a PL filled with photos, and then whether or not I had done the journaling. So when I went to print out my photos, I decided on the 20 so odd stories I wanted to tell, and I then made those my traditional stories. I decided which pictures I was going to use for them, and I went ahead and I wrote the journaling for those stories. The other stories, the PL ones, those were just what was left over of my layouts. So what I did was I made sure to number them so that back to back I would have traditional layout to traditional layout for one page protector, and then PL layout to PL layout for another page protector. So that's just a very basic overview of how I worked my basic album layout. Now here are all of my files for journaling. I used just a free font that looked like a typewriter font. Some of them were cut into strips, some were blocks, some were 8.5 by 11, some were like 3 by 4, just depending on what I thought. A lot of the times what I would do is I would write the journaling, and then within that one sheet of paper I would type it up in different ways, like either as a block, so it only ran about 4 inches, and then I would do one where it ran the whole length of the 8.5 by 11, and then I would do one where I gave extra spaces in case I wanted to cut it into strips. So yeah, I probably wasted a little bit of paper, but not so bad. That's coming up on my time for my screenshots now. I'm going to head on back to my regular real-time video.
Okay, hopefully that made sense. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment. I'm more than happy to answer it. I will usually answer, maybe not right away, and if sometimes I will answer like when I'm filming another video. It just, just happens that way. It's like when I think about it. But please go ahead and leave a comment if you did have a question about anything I said in that part of the video. All right, we are going to go ahead and do this album flip through. I'm going to have to move Xanthi because I'm going to put the album right there. Before I get started, there are a couple things to explain. One, I have very bad hair throughout this entire album. I did not let that me not be in the photos or anything like that. This was very early in 2012. Basically the entirety of 2010 I had cancer. I lost all of my hair. So I had literally had about 6 or 7 months of hair regrowth at that time, so it is quite short, and I have naturally curly hair, which is not really a good look for people with curly hair unless you want to look like Shirley Temple, but in a super bizarre way. Second, the person I refer to as my nephew, and I will most likely refer to him as my nephew throughout this album share, is transgender, so he does look like a girl in this photo because at the point in time he was living his life as a girl. He no longer does that, so I will refer to him as my nephew, but you may be looking in and see a little girl and be confused. So those are just the two things I wanted to point out. We were in Disney for 9 days, I think. We were gone for 10, but I'll explain as I go through the album. So I'm just kind of go through the stories I'm telling, the reason I chose to do that, some of the design choices I made. So it's going to be partial storytelling, partial, layout shares. So, Miss Xanthi, you've got to get going now. I know, you don't want to go. Okay, she's fine. All right, let's get started. This is my opening page. I have to get by some stuff there. Okay, so this big WDW, for some reason I felt I needed it to be bold, so I just picked up, I think it's kind of like for party buntings at Michael's, and then I just went over it with a Wink of Stella pen. Some of the wood veneer, and then this photo is from when we met Mickey Mouse in Hall of Characters, Hall of Animation. It's in Hollywood Studios, which I don't think is called that anymore, but whatever. So I just popped that up. These are the rain boot stickers, so they're that rubberized, and I just wanted a nice bold font for this. So we were there from January 31st until February 8th, but really we were only there on February 8th for like 2 hours. Our flight left very early in the morning. So I've got a nice little embellishment up in the top corner, and then over here, and then it's like around the photo. So, and this is one of the Simple Stories does the different size cut aparts. So I believe this was actually 6x8 originally, and I just cut it down to about a 6x6. And then obviously the background paper is from Say Cheese too. You can tell because it has the gold foil in it. So here's how I did it, and I mentioned that in the part I voiceovered, where I very carefully planned out from my traditional to my pocketed pages and back and forth. So this is my first layout. Now, any layout I have a process video for, I will put together. I started a playlist, I never finished it, but before this goes up, I will make sure that I do finish it and put it all together. So anything there is a video for will be in my Disney album playlist. Not every single one has it. I started this album before I started doing process videos. I did about 6 or 7 layouts at a crop. And then I started doing process videos, so the majority of them are on camera at some point. All right, so this is my first layout. This is actually not in Disney. We went in, as I mentioned, in January, end of January, beginning of February. We live in Connecticut. The year before, we had snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm, so we're like, you know what, just in case, don't want to try to make it to the airport. Our flight was leaving pretty early in the morning. But the good thing is that meant we were in Florida by like 10 a.m. So we stayed at a hotel that had a shuttle to the airport the night before. And so obviously my nephew decided to go, he wanted to go swimming, which is one of his favorite things on the planet to do. And then here's just a picture of our luggage first thing in the morning. And I was just talking about how we went to dinner with my parents the night before, and then they dropped us off at the airport so we didn't have to worry about leaving our car there. And then they I think they picked us up. Someone picked us up. I don't remember who, to tell you the truth. And then here, using the pocketed page, I talk about arriving and my disappointment. We didn't get one of the Disney Express buses. We got one of the Mears buses. So that was my big disappointment of the trip. So I actually journal about that later in the album. So us in line for our resort. And the first thing we did was we headed off to the pool, because like I mentioned, nephew's favorite thing. All right, so here is the other side of that pocketed page, and this is where I'm talking about the resort. So I've got some pool pictures, and then where our room was. We had the corner room, which is nice because we had extra light. I'm sorry, Xanthi has decided to go insane, so hold on a second. Okay, so we stayed at the Port Orleans French Quarter, which is the smaller of the Port Orleans resorts. So I did this layout. A lot of my 12x12 layouts only have one photo because I'm just using that as a representative of the story I'm telling. So I did type up all of my journaling that appears on my traditional 12x12 layouts. Occasionally I would write things like I wrote our room, and I did do some handwriting journaling on the pocketed pages, but all of the 12x12 pages have the typewriter style typed up journaling. So I was just talking about how originally we were going to stay at Pop Century, and then they came out with free dining. We had we were going to go, we had already paid the deposit and all of that stuff, and then they came out that there was going to be free dining while we were going to be there, and it was actually cheaper for us to do free dining than it was to do the room discount, because we were going in the off season, so the rooms were not super expensive, and it made more sense to us to have our food paid for, which was a bigger chunk of the money, than to have, I think it was cheaper, I know that, and because in looking how we prefer to dine while on vacation, it was a better deal for us to bump up to a moderate resort rather than stay at the value resort, just because we would be getting the sit-down dining credits, which was more important to us. So, yeah. So most of my layouts have wood veneer, enamel dots. Actually, all of my layouts have wood veneer and enamel dots. At some point, I started also with washi tape, but I didn't continue that just because I always forget to use washi tape. It's you know, it's one of those things I get and then it's like I never use it. So, and here's a layout, and this is called Magic Towel Fun. So, you know, it's always fun when they do the towel shapes. So this is cute because it was not actually his birthday, and I actually talk about this in a layout, but I'll explain why the whole birthday thing ended up happening. So here's another pocketed page, and here's an example of me writing on the pocketed pages. I love this photo of him. It's so cute. This is one of the best things about Port Orleans, both Riverside and French Quarter, is there is a ferry boat, it's right there, that goes behind the resorts, and it takes you to downtown Disney. What I guess it's called Disney Springs now. Yeah, so this is downtown Disney. And so we would take, anytime we were going into downtown Disney, or anytime we could, basically, we took the boat because it was just ridiculously relaxing and beautiful. So this side of the pocketed page, I'm talking about downtown Disney, and it's all the, you know, traditional pictures you take with the captain's wheel, with Winnie the Pooh, with the Lego creatures. So, and then this is a traditional layout I did telling a story of something that happened at downtown Disney. That was just a really fun layout. So I did a lot of like T or vertical with a upper corner layout. I was just trying to look for a cohesive look. So that's just the way it ended up. Not every single one, but quite a few of them. So this is called the first pin trade. And when we started planning for this, like I said, I'd been sick for most of 2010. So I basically planned this to be like the best, awesomest vacation I could possibly ever go on. And so I took a huge amount of time, spent a lot of time on Disney boards, planning, trying to get the best bang for our buck, trying to see what would be available to us. And one of the things that came up was pin trading. And my nephew at the time was 11, so he was kind of the perfect age for that activity. I didn't, you know, when we first went, he was 5 or 6, I don't remember. And I had heard about it before, but honestly, I'm like, no, he's not going to actually understand what's going on, and he's not going to want to do it, and I don't want to be, you know, doing it myself. But so I bought a lot of pins, like a lot, not a lot, a lot of pins off of eBay for like $4, and then put them all on a lanyard. And so we were at downtown Disney, and we knew that the cast members with a certain color lanyard or a certain pin on it would trade with children. No big deal. So we talked to this gentleman. It was actually his like second day. He'd never done a pin trade. He was so excited. So he asked if he would pose for a photo with him, and he was like, of course. And like so this is both their first pin trades. So it's just one of those really cool stories that, you know, is so much fun to tell. And so now we're moving to this one. So now so you'll see my layouts are sectioned out. So we go from resort stuff, and then resort heading into downtown Disney, and then downtown Disney, and now we're moving into characters. So I do a 12 by 12 layout where I'm talking about, this was his favorite, it actually still is his favorite princess. He admires Tiana very much, and we'll explain to you all the reasons why he admires Tiana. And he still, well, so one of the things we did to prepare to go to Disney is we had once a month we had movie nights, and we would make a meal that had to do with the movie, and then we would watch the movie. So we made gumbo, I think. Yeah, we made gumbo, and we watched Princess and the Frog. Yeah, that's what it's called, right? Princess and the Frog, yeah. So we made that, and then let's see, I'm trying to remember what we did for other ones. Like we did seafood, and we watched Little Mermaid. We made black and white cookies and watched 101 Dalmatians. So stuff like that, like just once a month, you know, working up to going. So then we have a pocketed page, and so here's one of the examples where I made a collage of photos specifically to use as a 4x6, as opposed to here where I had collaged these photos into 2 3x4, and actually these are completely separate, so they're from 2 different things that I was planning on cutting into 3x4s, and either using like this with a border or butting up together like these two. So these are all the this is like this is Rapunzel was the newest princess when we went. Her line was massive. Luckily, what ended up happening was my housemate stayed in the line because she's a people watcher, so she doesn't mind waiting in line. While my nephew and I, at the time, I don't know if they're still doing it or not, they had they were beta testing this. You go through the park and you have clues. It was kind of like, I'm going to talk about in one of my layouts, the Kim Possible secret agent thing in Epcot. Well, this is kind of like a next generation of that, where you would hold magic cards up to catch the light, and it was in the Magic Kingdom. So we did that while she waited in line to see Rapunzel, who was awesome. And then we have Aurora from Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, and Belle. And then Phineas and Ferb, and they were huge when we went. They actually did a show. You'd go and wait in line, and then right before they would do photos and stuff, they would do like a skit, and they'd actually pull kids from the audience, and he got to go. So that was really cool. So I talked about that. So here's another thing where I hand wrote a little bit of journaling. And then we move into food. So I've got a lot of the little pictures of, like, this is some resort food. This is at the Rose and Crown. This is at Raglan Road. This is at the Canadian. Oh, sugar. What's it called? The Canadian restaurant. That's the nicer one. It's going to drive me nutty. Oh, well. Anyway, and then this is some of the, like, the World Showcase stuff. So this is France, one of their desserts. And then this is, we got shawarma at the Moroccan quick service. That's what I was looking for. It's going to drive me crazy what that's called. Okay, so, oh, Le Cellier, there it is, right there. Okie dokie. Okay, so while I'm talking about food, I will talk about what we did for the free dining. My nephew was what's considered a Disney adult, and I know people complain about this, but the fact of the matter is once they're that age, they are able to go on every single ride, so obviously they should pay the full price. So when we went to regular restaurants, like either quick service things or like Boma and stuff like that, he would order off the adult menu and be perfectly happy. When in a little bit, I'm going to show you, we also went to some fancier restaurants, and I knew he would be more than happy to order off the kids menu, because even though it was a kids menu, it was stuff like steak and mashed potatoes or salmon and rice pilaf. It wasn't like mac and cheese and hamburgers. So when we went to the fancier places, he ordered a la carte off the kids menu, which we paid for because it's only like $11. And then we took what he would have used as dinner credits for the free dining program and used that to actually get an extra character dining experience. So, you know, if you've got kids who are like, say, who are, I don't remember, is it 11 or 10 or 9 that are that Disney adult, but where they might not have the actually palate of an actual adult. So if you're going to do some of the fancier dining, you can look and see what's on the kids menu and just pay for that cash wise. Okay, and so here is actually what we did for our extra dining. We went to the dinner one. This is at the Grand Floridian. It has Cinderella, her prince, the evil stepmother, and the two stepsisters. And I was talking about how we were really going for Cinderella and the crew, but we actually really enjoyed the food. It was very good. I don't know if they're having an excellent food night or whatnot, you know, because people say it can be good, it can be not so good. The food was excellent. And so I move into pocketed pages talking about all of our character dining. So here's another one of the Cinderella dinner at Grand Floridian. We did the luau brunch with, this was at the Polynesian with Lilo and Stitch, and I think Mickey too. And then we did, this is Animal Kingdom. I don't remember. It's the one over in Africa. This was a breakfast or a lunch. Yeah, it was a breakfast or a lunch. I don't remember. But it's the one over in Africa, like before you get to the safari. And then this is actually the same place as the Cinderella, but this was the breakfast, and this was the Alice in Wonderland and Mary Poppins characters. This was the same place, the Grand Floridian, just the different character switch for the meal switch. And then I talk about more pocketed paging, this one doing our resort dining that's non-character, or photos of the resorts where we didn't have characters in it. So this is actually the one where I believe this is the evening. Let me see. Yeah, it was the evening. She was wearing the same shirt. So this was with Cinderella, but didn't have any of the characters in it, so I put it over here. This is some shots of the Grand Floridian. Once again, this is where I made a collage, so these are all Grand Floridian shots. Here's where I made my nephew climb under a table because I thought this would make a really fun photo, and it did. And this is over at the Yacht Club. What we did was we spent the day at Epcot, and then we took the boat over to the Yacht Club, what's it called? The Yacht Club Beach Club, something like that, for dinner. It's actually our least favorite meal. I think they're having an off night. And then just some more photos from the Grand Floridian. And then I move into my 12 by 12 layout about our fancy dining night. We went to Citricos at the Grand Floridian. And I mentioned that a lot of this you'll see my happy birthday stuff. This was actually my nephew's Christmas gift that year. You know, he didn't actually get a ton of stuff because we were going in less than a month to go to Disney, or in about a month. But we actually, when we went, was right before my housemate's birthday. So I had special ordered one of the little mini cakes for her as a surprise. She had no idea for when we went to Citricos. So she was super surprised. And we all got like dressed up, not super dressed up, but dressed up for Florida. You know, you don't bring a lot of dress up clothes. And had a lovely time. And this is one of the meals where he ordered off the kids menu because this is 2 dining credits for the meal. So we saved 2 dining credits, which then allowed us to do that extra character meal. Sorry guys, I just paused it to see how far we were into how much time I had spent on here, and I did straighten this out a little bit. I hope this is straight enough for you guys. I'm really sorry if there's any glare going on. Unfortunately, there isn't really anything I can do. Okay. So this is still a couple things. I'm moving into the Magic Kingdom. So I'm starting with this one, which is called the Magic from the Wishes Dessert Party. This is another thing we paid for extra. I don't know if they still do this, but when we went, they were offering dessert parties, and the desserts are fine, they're cute. But the really awesome thing was the view of Wishes. It was great because you weren't crowded, you had seats, you could stand at the balcony. It was held in that abandoned building a lot. I think they have like events there, like you can rent it like if you're like a business and you want to treat your employees to lunch or something like that. But it has a fabulous view of Wishes. So I took these photos and this one of the castle and lit with the multicolor lights. So once again, I just have the 3 embellishment clusters and the multi-fonted title work. I was actually just getting into this when I started this particular album, so it's kind of funny that you see that. Oh, I did forget to mention these butterflies. These are actually not from anything from Simple Stories or anything. These, a friend of mine sent them to me actually right before I started the album, so I ended up adding them to the majority of my 12x12 layouts. Alright, so one of the funny things, at the time my nephew had red and yellow streaks in his hair, and all the characters would always ask, oh my gosh, did Tinkerbell do that? When we were in the Magic Kingdom. So it's kind of funny. And the character, this is Vidya. This is right when the Tinkerbell movies came out. So I think, so this is like when Vidya and the other 5 fairies were very popular. So the video was all like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, what did Tinkerbell do now? You know, because she's the snarky fairy. So this is just a cute story. And like I said, I used enamel dots and the wood veneer and a lot of, you know, triangular design going on. One more from Magic Kingdom. I really like the way this turned out. I love the vertical piece with all of the embellishments encircling the layout, the photo. I thought this was a really fun photo of my nephew trying to pull the sword out of the stone. And that's what this is called, the sword in the stone. I love this. I was like, try as she might, she couldn't just get the sword out of the stone. I guess no royal crown this time. Oh darn. And then I move over to a pocketed page, and I do have this photo, and it is a favorite photo, but I just didn't need to tell a story here, so I just, you know, put the photo in. And then a couple more characters, and this is waiting in line for the Haunted Mansion, and he was trying to do the faces of the statues, so. And we had gone in really early. We had gone before the day. They have, before they let you in the park, they have a show like on the train bridge above the entrance, and just like they sing a song and they all come off the train. And so my nephew and I had gone super early so we could see the show. So, and we were one of the first people through the doors, so I got a picture of the castle without a ton of people in front of it. And then some more just random Magic Kingdom photos, a couple more from the Wishes dessert party. Now, all of these are cut aparts from, or sorry, I shouldn't say all these. Most of these are cut aparts from Say Cheese and Say Cheese 2. A couple of them are just random pocket, Project Life, oh my gosh, but from Studio Calico. And yes, they do have rounded corners, and no, I don't care. You know, some people care, some people don't care, so it's just a matter of what works for you. All right, we've got this photo here, and I lined it with a bunch of stickers. This was really cute. It's actually like a small band of saxophonists, and my nephew plays the saxophone, so he was happy about that. And then this one is a 6x8, and I wanted to do a larger one on this because I did want to do some journaling. We like the People Mover, which is like one of our favorite things to do. We'll literally ride that thing. Like that, for that, we'll take an hour and just ride it over and over again like it's nap time. And then I wanted to talk about the Carousel of Progress because, so we did 2 days at Magic Kingdom, and after we completed our first day, and I was talking about, okay, so what are our must-dos when we go back to Magic Kingdom? What do we have to do? And what must we do our second day? And my nephew's like, we have to go on the Carousel of Progress. Yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem. There isn't usually a line for that. But it's kind of funny that an 11-year-old would pick the Carousel of Progress as his must-do. Alright, and then I am going to do part 2. So I'm going to finish here with Magic Kingdom, more just pocketed page stuff. So I have a picture of him with not Walt Disney, Roy Disney, I think it's Roy, I'm sorry. This was my housemate's first Dole Whip, so I took a picture of that. For some reason, I don't know why, she'd never had one before. And then my nephew got to be the line timer person for the Haunted Mansion, so he was immensely proud of that fact. So I took a picture of him holding the little "how long is this line now" timer thingy. And then we just saw a marching band, and I took a picture of it on one of the parades. Alright, so that is going to complete part 1 of my album share of my 2012 Walt Disney album. So I will have the next one. I don't know if it's going to come up like directly after this. I might actually wait a few days and then put it up, just so I don't have to worry about trying to get everything up on YouTube all at once. But stay tuned for that. I will try to remember to come back and post a link to the second video in this description box. If you have any questions, just leave a comment below. If you could flick me a thumbs up, that would be super awesome, and I will see you guys in a bit.